Who knows why Jesus was crucified? Why was he legally crucified?
So the reason why Jesus was crucified was simply because he was an agent of God. He was one sent by God. As it talks about here in Deuteronomy, when Israel goes astray, God says that he will raise someone up from among them to basically bring them back to the correct way of path that they should follow, okay? We have so many examples in the Old Testament of God sending all of his prophets to go out, tell Israel how they are screwing up, and how to get on the proper path. How did Israel respond? They unalived every single one of them. There are such detailed accounts of Jeremiah, Ezekiel, even the prophet Isaiah, which is not specifically mentioned in the book of Isaiah, but Josephus, the Talmud, and church fathers talk about how he literally hid in a tree and Israel sawed the tree in half to get rid of him. This is why Yeshua even says the words here in Matthew and Luke, "O you Jerusalem, the one who unalives their prophets." That's why he even gives the parable, which is found in Mark chapter 12 and in Matthew 21, that literally talks about God planting a vineyard. He lends it out. He sends his prophets to go and collect the debt or to give them the message. That's what the debt means. But when they're all unalived, he says, "I will send my son. Surely they will listen to him." And did they? No. They unalived him and they said, "Here is the heir. Let us unalive him and take the reward," right? So that's why he was unalived. Because just as all the other prophets were sent by God to give a message, so Jesus was also sent. The only difference is Jesus is the Son of God when these were just other prophets, other workers within the company. Jesus was the Son himself, which is why he would be more valuable. But you're probably not going to say that. You're going to say something silly.
Because he claimed to be God.
Is this thing on? Did you not just hear everything I literally just told you?
And I brought that up to him. He didn't like that too much. So he said, "Well, you're just doing what they did. You just want to talk about the New Testament." I said, "No, let's go back to the Old Testament for a minute." See, God had me in the Word studying this again. I had it fresh on my mind. And I said, "Who's Yahweh?" Because in the book of Sarai, in the Quran, it says to trust the Torah. That it hasn't been changed and it's not messed up. So he has to believe in the Torah. So I said, "Well, who's Yahweh?" And he didn't really want to answer that either. And I said, "Well, he's I am."
I just get so frustrated with disingenuousness. What people do is they try to connect, and what this is called an equivocation fallacy of John 8:58 to Exodus 3:14. Now, in your Bible translations, most of them do say, "I am that I am," but that is not a correct translation. What he actually says is, "Edyeh esher edyeh" within the Hebrew. Now, this literally means I will be what I will be, or if it's in the past participle, I will become what I will, or I choose to become. We can have a play within the words there. All right, he will be what he will be, which honestly, again, makes so much more sense than just I am. If you're the God of Israel and you're claiming to be something, right? He's claiming to be something. He's not claiming to be I am something. You are what? That doesn't make any sense. And I always try to tell people this. When he says that I will be or become what I will be or become, what he is saying is, whether we need him to be a strong arm for us to help us against our enemies, or if we need him to be a comforter to us, God will be whatever we need him to be. That is why the corrective verbiage is used there. Now, ego eimi means I am. Now, the correct Hebrew equivalent of it would be anihu. So if it said anihu, that would help their case, Trinitarians, so much more better. But it doesn't. But, argument's sake, let's look at the Old Testament, the Greek Septuagint. What does that say? By no surprise, it does say ego eimi, but it focuses on the being, as it says right here. It says ego eimi haon. The haon right there is the being, right? I am the being. And then if we see towards the end of that, it says, let them know that the being. So the being, haon, is being associated to God. It is revealing a characteristic of God. This is identifying something of God, not this I am crap.
I said, "Well, who did Jesus claim to be?" I am.
And here's an example of all these people in the New Testament, Paul even specifically, and examples within the Old Testament Septuagint of people claiming to be ego and me. So why are these people not considered God? Why do you pick out a place where Jesus says, I am, but all these other people also say, I am, but you don't say they're divine or they are a person within the Godhead? Why do you only show this type of favoritism towards Jesus?
Eternal. You see, that's what Yahweh is. He's the eternal. And notice in the garden, when he said, let us make man in our image, he was speaking plurally. Who is he speaking to? John 1, the Word that always was, that existed in the beginning, and was with God, and nothing was created except through him. That's who he was speaking to. Jesus was there in the beginning.
It's stuff like this. I wish people would honestly just take a class in the Hebrew, okay? So this is a concept known as plural of majesty. So a lot of times when the Hebrew words are plural, they are not literally plural as we would interpret it in our English language. It is a plural of majesty to try to emphasize what this is telling us. To give you an example, Elohim is literally translated as gods, but in our Bible, it just says God. So why is it plural? To emphasize the power and the majesty behind Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, Yahweh, Jehovah. We see other examples of this within Genesis 19 and 1 Kings chapter 8, where we see Yahweh calling down fire and brimstone from Yahweh, and in 1 Kings, we see King Solomon ushering in all these warriors to King Solomon. There's only one Yahweh, just as there's only one King Solomon. So why is this example being used? To emphasize the plurality or the power or the majesty behind a certain character. This is done all throughout the Bible. But what this guy is doing, again, is another equivocation fallacy. How he equivocates John 8:58 to Exodus 3:14. He's equivocating our English understanding and our rules of grammar within the English language and applying it to a Hebraic language that he clearly knows nothing of.